As the election nears and media is pulling dirt out of left and right field about the presidential nominees, it makes you wonder how much of the questionable past of these nominees is true. Nelson Mandela is a man with very questionable background that went on to run a country. Not this country, of course, but the country of Africa. His questionable actions and extreme measures of proving a point made his journey to presidency a hard one, to say the least. Nelson Mandela, whose birth name was Rulahala, which means to pull a branch of a tree or troublemaker, was born in Mvezo, a small village in the district of Umtata, on July 18, 1918. His great-grandfather ruled as the king of the Thumba people. His father was the chief of Mvezo. When Mandela's father passed away from tuberculosis when he was 9 years old, he was adopted by a family friend. Mandela attended a Wesleyan mission school located next to the Palace of the Regent. He was initiated at the age of 16 and attended Clarkberry Boarding Institution, where he completed his junior certificate in 2 years as opposed to the normal 3. Mandela then went on to study his bachelor's at Fort Hare University, where he met Oliver Tambo and Crasher, but would later be forced on opposing sides as Crasher due to the support of policies in which they disagreed. At the end of his first year at Fort Hare, Mandela became involved in a Students' Representative Council boycott against the university policies. He was told to leave and not return unless he was accepted to the SRC. Shortly after leaving college, Mandela found out that his adoptive father had arranged marriage for him. Unhappy with this decision, he elected to relocate to Johannesburg, where he found work as a guard at a mine, but his employer quickly fired him when he found out that he was a Regent runaway. He then found work as an article clerk for a law firm and went on to complete his bachelor's at the University of South Africa and went on from there to study law at the University of Witwatersrand. In 1952, he led the ANC's Defiance campaign, and then in 1955, the Congress of the People. At this time, he and a fellow lawyer, Oliver Tambo, opened a law firm of Mandela and Tambo, where they provided for low-cost legal services for blacks who had no legal representation. On December 5, 1956, Mandela and 150 others were arrested for treason. In 1961, Mandela became the leader of the ANC's armed wing. He then coordinated sabotage campaigns against military and government targets. Mandela warranted the armed attacks as a last resort, years of increasing violence and repression and lack of any progress. In June 1961, he sent a letter to the South African newspaper telling the government if they did not do as asked, it would result in an armed attack. The demand was the government accept a call for the National Constitution Convention. Demands were not met, and on December 16, 1961, they launched a bombing attack on government targets. The first was on an electrical substation, and over the next 18 months, that included a total of 193 attacks on the post, including machines, power facilities, and corps. On August 5, 1962, after being on the run for 17 months, Mandela was arrested. On October 25, 1962, he was sentenced 5 years in prison. Mandela was brought in for the Rivonia trial, where he and others involved were charged with 4 charges of crimes of sabotage, which Mandela admitted to. The charges included 193 acts of sabotage, preparation and manufacturing of explosives, which included 210,000 hand grenades, 48,000 anti-personnel mines, 1,500 time devices, 144 tons of ammonium nitrate, and 2.16 tons of aluminum powder, and a ton of black powder, and plotting a foreign invasion, which Mandela denied. On April 20th, 1964, Mandela stated the reasoning for the ANC's actions, how they had tried to use peaceful methods for years, and how it had led to the sabotages. He closed his statement with these words: "During my lifetime, I have dedicated myself to the struggle of the African people. I have fought against white domination, and I have fought against black domination. I have cherished the idea of a democratic and free society in which all persons live together in harmony and with equal opportunities. It is ideal which I hope to live and achieve, but if need be, it is an ideal for which I am prepared to die." He was sentenced to life in prison on June 12, 1964. Mandela was imprisoned in Robben Island where he remained for the next 18 years. While in prison, he became very well known as a black leader in South Africa. While in prison, he was also one of the lower class prisoners, which meant he could only have one visitor and one letter every 6 months. And by the time he received the letters, they were so delayed and impossible to read due to censoring. While in prison, Mandela studied at the University of London via correspondence through external programs and received the Bachelor's of Law. In March 1982, he was moved to Polismark prison. It is believed that the reason for this move was to keep the influence of the senior leaders from those young black activists in prison there. In February 1985, Mandela was offered freedom via the president in exchange for his rejection of violence as a political weapon. Mandela sternly declined releasing this statement via his daughter. "What freedom I am being offered while the organization of the people remain banned. Only free men can negotiate. A prisoner cannot enter into contracts." In 1988, Mandela was moved to Victor Verster prison, where he remained until his release. In 1989, when Botha suffered a heart attack and Frederick William de Klerk replaced him and soon announced the upcoming release of Mandela. Mandela was released February 11, 1990. On the day of his release, Mandela made a speech in which he stated his commitment to peace, but made it clear that the ANC's armed struggle was not yet over. He said, "Our restore to the armed struggle in the 1960s with the reformation of the military wing of the ANC was a purely defensive action against the violence of apartheid. The factors which necessitated the armed struggle still exist today. We have no option but to continue. We express the hope that a climate conducive to a negotiated settlement would be created soon, so that there may no longer be the need for the armed struggle." He also stated that his main goal was to bring peace to the black majority and give the right to vote in both national and local elections. After his release from prison, Mandela resumed his leadership of the ANC and later led them in many multi-party negotiations that led up to the country's first multiracial election. In 1993, he and President Klerk together won the Nobel Peace Prize. The first multiracial election was held on April 27, 1944, in which 62% of the election's votes went to the ANC. Mandela was inaugurated in May of 1994 as the country's first black president. Free health care, which was introduced in 1994 for all children under 6, was just one of Mandela's main accomplishments, along with many more, including the Land Restoration Act, which enabled those who had lost their land as a result of Natives Land Act of 1913 to claim back their land, child support grants in 1998, Labor Relations Act of 1995, as well as helping connect 3 million people with telephone lines. 1.5 million children were brought into the education system, 500 clinics upgraded and constructed, 2 million people were connected to the electricity grid, water access extended to 3 million, and 750,000 houses were built, housing nearly 3 million people. In the 1996 Mine Health and Safety Act, the Welfare Laws Amendment Act, Prevention of Illegal Eviction from and Unlawful Occupation of Land, a National Development Agency was established, and amendments to the Compensation for Occupational Injuries and Disease Act. Mandela was also the oldest president of South Africa at age 75. Along with his major accomplishments as an equal rights activist and presidential triumphs, Mandela was also married 3 times and had 6 children and numerous grandchildren. This man is a living proof that just because you have a rocky past and have been dealt a less than desired hand, you are the only one that controls your future and determines how high you will climb on the ladder of success and how hard you will fight for the things that you believe in.